One warrior rises from the shadows of the past. Mike and Tom discuss an IDW joint, The Last Ronin, on this week's main show.
Good evening, Mr. Tom. How are you?
I'm good. And we're not really heroes in a half shell, but we're going to be talking about them.
That's right. I love that. I love that. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And before we get to the main thing here, I'll bring up our YouTube page here, and we'll transition over here to do a little plugging, and then we'll get back to the show here. But I just want to say thank you so much to all those who have subscribed to us in the last several months. You have really made the difference between whether we were going to keep going or not. It's always not that we were going to quit ever, but I don't want to be so dramatic. But there's got to be a little clickbait in all this. But I will say that it is very rewarding to see regular folks comment on our videos. We're learning and growing all the time. I just put out a short form one. Very proud of that. I've never done that before. I also wanted to commend Tom for being he powers the recommendation engine 9 times out of 10 when it comes to figuring out what we want to do next or whatever. And of course, as always, we would love to hear from you. We would love it if you could like our video. Even better if you could share it. That costs nothing. Of course, we're not at the stage yet where we're gonna beg for money. That might be coming down the line later, maybe at
Yeah.
some point. But this is just a passion play that we both love to do. And if you could subscribe, even better. We are driving hard to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year, if not a little bit above that. That'll be great if you could do that. All the same,
Yep.
I've
Yeah.
been very.
Well, more the merrier. Oh, and hit the refresh
Oh,
button on this
yeah,
page.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
do that real quick here. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
My OCD was going crazy because I was looking at thumbnails.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And before we get back to the main event here, I just want to say our back catalog is ever growing. We're fast approaching 150 videos, and I guarantee you we have something that you would like or that you have never seen before. I can 100% say that. We are probably a little bit later in the fall, maybe early winter. We'll blow off the dust of the website and get that going. But in any case, do you have any favorite shows of the last couple months that you wanted to highlight or plug before we go into the main show?
No, they're all good. No, yeah,
They are.
I like our Lady Hawk one that did quite well.
I was surprised by that
And
one.
yeah, and people will see the Barbie one and mention say, hey, you covered Barbie? Like
Yep,
yes, we
absolutely.
covered Barbie. No, yeah, well, that just shows that we cover everything. So anything that we are interested in or
Hmm.
have a have something interesting to say about at least we'll definitely give it the once over and talk about but yeah, so that brings us do you have a personal favorite that we've done recently?
No, other than I just wanted to put the addendum onto pretty much anything that would have a nerd
Hmm.
following or gathering that you people can get really
Hmm.
excited about is in our bailiwick,
Yeah.
as it were. But yeah, before we get too much further along, I just want to kind of chat with you for a little bit and kind of go before we go into the intro. We usually talk about our common history with properties, if we have any
Hmm.
memories or anything. I don't know about you, but I definitely grew up in the era of Ninja Turtles. Wasn't really big into the Power Rangers. That came along a little bit further down the line than when I came on the scene. But
Hmm.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not the comic books per se, but the '90s TV show or the '80s TV show, or no, '90s, and I think it was '89
No,
when
it's 80. Yeah, it was towards the second half of the 80s and
yeah,
into the 90s.
yeah,
Yeah.
late '80s, early '90s. There was a Teenage
Hmm.
Mutant Ninja Turtles were probably at their peak at one point. And I remember I fondly remember the movies that came out with Splinter. I got the soundtrack. I had my Walkman, and I
Hmm.
wore that tape out. I love the soundtrack to that so much. And I also just love
Go
the action
Ninja, go
figures.
Ninja, go. No,
Yep,
that was
no,
that's the second one. Yeah.
absolutely. A Pizza Hut,
Uh-huh.
all
Hmm.
the things. When you kind of go back, the movies, I think they hold up. And I want to give a shout out to the Tom at Midnight's Edge, because he actually had a longer form show where they really went into the original movies and they really dissected it. He is a super fan, so shout out to that. Shout out to them for doing that. I did listen to it a little bit as it went on, but very fascinating things that I didn't know that I picked up
Yeah,
on.
and not too long ago, Red Letter Media did a episode. I think it was on the first movie. They did a kind of a deep dive into it as well. With one of the he was an artist. I think he's did work for Marvel or whatnot.
Hmm,
But yeah, they had him on the show and they kind of just talked about turtles and comic books and different things. But yeah, my experience with the Ninja Turtles was with the OG comic book. I I'm old enough to remember the spinner rack at the local grocery store or the um, pharmacy where you would go in a drugstore. You'd go in and there would be a spinner rack with a bunch of Marvel, DC, and Archie. That was all. That's all you got was the top ones of those. Which for a young kid that was plenty. But I heard about this comic book shop that was in Arkansas, and I was like where I grew up, and I was so excited
sorry
to
about
to
that.
finally go there because you would see ads for direct media stuff or direct to comic book store
Okay.
stuff that Marvel would do, and going making the journey to that comic book shop for the first time was much like I guess people's journey to Mecca or Jerusalem. It was a religious experience for me when I walked into the comic book shop, and it was a small, cramped comic book shop, little cramped little place that was dimly lit to protect the comic books. So it was a bit of a cave, and one side you had your Marvel, the other side you had DC, and in mixed in was all the independent comic books. And I was in heaven, and you had all the back issues and whatnot. That's where my collection sort of exploded, and I became acquainted with indie comic books like Cerebus the Aardvark. You had ElfQuest, and you had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I didn't get like the first issues with of the Ninja Turtles. I didn't know about them for
Okay.
a little while, and then I came in. I kind of was looking at the old covers to figure out which comic book I dived into them, but I got into them with issue number 10. I recognized that cover, and that was the introduction of Casey Jones. So that was the first issue with Casey Jones, and
Love
yeah,
that
I
character.
read. Yeah, I read it and loved it. I remember it was it had so much of an impact on me. I remember I had my stack of comic books and we were traveling somewhere, and on the road trip I was just going through and reading my new comic books, and one of them was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that issue, my first issue that I read. I don't remember any other of the comic books, but it made so much of an impact reading that first comic book that I remember where I was when I read it, and I remember just looking at the cover. The cover kind of covered the front cover and back cover. You could flip it out and get a whole little scene there, and
That's
yeah,
cool.
so that was my Mutant Ninja Turtles. So whenever they came out with the cartoon, I was like, oh man, they're dumbing it down. I don't want that kitty stuff because I was getting older into my teenage years. So, I didn't want to, cartoons. What's this? But I
Right.
did enjoy the movie because the movie had that kind of the grimy, dark edge, and that was the big thing about the comic book is that it was kind of parroting the dark comic books at the time. You had the Dark Knight, the Batman by Frank Miller, and you also had Frank Miller doing Daredevil fighting ninjas, and it being really dark as well. The so yeah, the Eastman and Laird was like, okay, let's do this kind of dark take but throw in turtles. What's the goofiest thing to throw in there? Let's put turtles in there as ninjas. And during the '80s, ninjas were huge. You had ninjas everywhere. That's why you had a ninja in the GI Joe comic book and cartoon as well.
Right.
Ninjas were key. You had to have a ninja in your thing. And when I did my own little comic book on my own when I was young, I of course it was an action team, and I had to have a ninja in there as well.
Yep. Oh well, that was
Mhm,
a fixture to every '80s action movie from Iron Eagle to American Ninja
mhm,
5, and then every other Van Damme movie that there was in the '80s. That was definitely a fun one. Yeah. Yeah, I think we both definitely have backgrounds. We're definitely the generation for this. So this is really, 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 really fun to get in, and this is the book that we're talking about here, the Last Ronin,
mhm,
and it is made by the original creators, Kevin
mhm,
Eastman and Peter Laird,
mhm,
with Tom Waltz, a great
mhm.
artwork as well. But in any case, this is kind of like
Yeah,
a compilation.
they got the band back together for the final time to tell the last story of the Mutant Ninja Turtles, the
Right.
Last Ronin. And I went back and reread the very first issue of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to bring it back full circle. But yeah, Eastman and Laird created the Mirage Studios back in 1984. That's the when the first comic book came out, and Mirage Studios, as a joke, because there wasn't really a studio, it was just them in their apartment, so it's Mirage. But yeah, so they obviously they blew up, they made their big money. They did break up in 2002. Laird and Eastman kind of split ways back then, and they only did the first 20 odd issues together. After that point, the Ninja Turtles was such a huge business. They were pretty much running the business as opposed to having time to actually do the comic book.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and kind of just to kind of set the stage here a little bit, and we're not going to do spoilers on this particular thing, but basically,
Hmm.
this is not your typical TMNT story. It's mature, it's gritty, it's
Well,
more
it
adult.
actually is a typical if you go with the original series.
Okay, right on, right on. Yeah, noted. But in any case,
But yeah, not
it
the popular sense
right. No,
of
it's not for
Mutant Ninja
kids.
Turtles.
It's not for kids. It's more
Hmm.
for a mature audience.
Hmm.
Than and it basically goes and you really get the perspective of the last turtle. That's not a spoiler. That's kind of at the forefront. But it's you can definitely tell that with East. This would not have worked if Eastman or Laird weren't part of it, because it is very much a love letter to the fans
Hmm.
that grew up with Turtles. Whether your introduction was the movie, the comic books, or some other permutation since from back in the day all the way up to now, even the Michael Bay. I think Michael Bay did the last iteration of the Turtles movie, I
The
believe.
last live action, yeah.
Right, live
I think
action.
he
Right.
produced it. He didn't direct it, but yeah, he produced it.
Right, right. Yeah,
Hmm.
he was attached to it. So yeah, there. But we're not
Yeah,
highlighting
where
that.
they kind of look like monsters. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
although we kind of timed it with the new animated series, which is getting a lot of positive reviews, which is more of a kid friendly version, obviously a kid friendly version with teenagers voicing the turtles, and I hear it's a pretty good take on the turtles and a pretty decent movie. I haven't seen it, but yeah, I've heard good things about it.
yeah. I haven't heard anything. I haven't really heard anything on the the critics corner, the chattering class that just can't deal with anything new. Sometimes you wonder about that.
Hmm.
But no, I've heard good things. I have, like you, I have not jumped into
Yep.
it. Maybe somewhere along the line, but really, I'd rather. I'm just fine with this with the comic book as
Right.
it is.
Yeah. That like I
It's
said,
perfect the
yeah,
way it
with
is.
right with turtles, I'm a OG Turtles guy, and So I've kind of overlooked everything turtle related. Um, but when I heard that Laird and Eastman were coming back together to do the Last Ronin, I was like, okay, I'm there. I bought my tickets. I gotta get in on this. So yeah, I collected it as the issues came out and read it as the issues came out. I know you waited until the graphic novel came out to read the whole story in
Yep.
one read, and I think it reads pretty well. Just you get, I think you probably get more out of it in reading it in one setting as opposed to spacing it, because the when the issues were coming out, um, they're such big issues. Every issue was like, I think, almost 50 pages.
Mm.
So yeah, they took a lot of time in between issues, so that sometimes there was 2 or 3 months before a new issue would come out. So yeah, a lot of times you'd have to go
Quality.
back and reread. Yeah.
Yeah, they took their time on it from, and you, this is a original one that we caught as it was happening since the birth of our channel, that you've
Hmm.
recommended over the course of the
Yeah.
last several weeks. And I just
Yep.
wanted to say shout out to my best friend Justin. Thank you, thank you for lending this book to me. We finally got around to getting through it. And I'm glad we waited. And it just kind of lined up the way it is, as
Hmm.
it were. That's how a lot of our coverage happens. Sometimes we'll cover something in the news. Most more often than not, not really. But we'll be news adjacent or current event
Hmm.
adjacent, to so to speak. But yeah, the background. So you're kind of thrown into this dystopian future. There's only one turtle left, and it's kind of like that dichotomy of revenge versus, where do you stop at, type
Yep.
thing.
Yeah, he's getting his final revenge on the Foot Clan for the wrongs that had been transpired to his family. And on the back of that lone turtle is all the weapons of his fallen warriors and fallen brothers and his own as well. So yeah, you don't know. By the end of the first issue or the first chapter of the last run, and which turtle is the lone one, but we won't
Right.
spoil it here
No.
for you to enjoy. But yeah, he's there's a lot of people that didn't make it to this point in the story, and they kind of go back with each issue or with each chapter.
Right.
He kind of looks back and kind of remembers the fallen warriors that passed away during this journey that he's going on. So, and like Mike said, this is in the future, a dystopian future.
Hmm.
He's going against the head of the Foot Clan now, and yeah, he's exacting his final revenge.
Right.
And it's a classic samurai story, classic story of that the lone warrior
Hmm.
finally seeking his revenge, and the weight and what that means to him and to the surviving family that's still left for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's kind of that's intro and setup all in one essentially. But I just want to. It's still set in New York City, but
Hmm.
now the New York City is overran with a mysterious and powerful villain. I'll leave it at that. Um, it's a way we just kind of cover that as dystopian wasteland with remnants of, of its past, scattered kind of throughout. That you will see in in the artwork and the pages, and you're like, oh, I remember that, or kind of things that are typical of New York City, and the turtles, as it were. Yeah, but he's
Not a lot of pizza eating in this one. So yeah,
not
if
really that
you're
kind of
looking for it.
mode or mood. Yeah, no, not that is
Yeah.
not that is not what this one is about. Not at all. Yeah, it does borrow a lot of those classic concepts from, from God. It's a very common trope, but it still does it. But when it does it well, whether it's a small screen, big screen, books, movies, comic books, it keeps you pegged. And
Yeah.
I know I purposely had to stop myself from reading this multiple times because I knew I wasn't going to stop until I got to the end of the of this particular this
Right.
particular book, which is 228 pages, I believe, is what it said on the screen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and that's just 5 issues. So you that
right,
tells you how big those issues were.
you're getting quality. You're getting
Yeah.
quality,
Yep.
which
Yeah.
is something you don't usually get nowadays. Like with feel kind of feels like 5 pages of
Yeah,
content,
the
and
itch. Yeah.
the other half of the book is filled with ads for things that you don't care about.
Right, and the issues actually had a spine to them, so they were almost like a graphic novel, to themselves, kind of sort of soft cover. Uh, and they always kind of played with the format.
Right.
When the issues were originally coming out, they were twice the size as page wise as regular comic books. When I went back to read the first issue of TMNT, it was, I think, 48 pages, and yeah, um, I know that it was kind of magazine style too. They didn't go to like regular comic book size until issue 5. But yeah, that's like I said, like Mike said, they always were looking to provide more for you, and also a big
But
staple
yeah,
for
that's
independent
like I
comic books
said,
back
like
in the day was doing it in black and white, and that kind of added to the gritty nature of the comic book. Back in the day when you got an independent comic book, you felt kind of edgy. Me as a nerd felt kind of edgy. Getting am I really supposed to be reading these? Because Savage Sword of Conan, even though that was an indie, but it was a magazine without the comic book code on it, and it was black and white. And yeah, I read like Elf Quest and um, Mutant Ninja Turtles. But yeah, another staple for indie comic books was it didn't have the comic book code on there, so you might see something or read something in there that wasn't safe. It was kind
right.
of out there on the edge, and so that this comic book, the Last Ronin, kind of embodies that spirit. A spirit that it is a color comic book, so don't worry, there is color in it. But it has that kind of frenzied energy to it, that kind of on the edge of, okay, what's going to happen? Anything could happen with this, because this isn't your grandkids
No,
Mutant Ninja Turtles.
no,
This
it's
is
not.
this is this is your OG dark stuff. So yeah, and yeah, just reading it, it really brought me back in time to the original Mutant Ninja Turtles, and just loving them, because it was just an odd story with, it's kind of funny because it's turtles, and they're being trained by this, life size, human size rat, and
Hmm.
it's like, what is this? And but it's telling this dark story about them seeking revenge for their rat master Splinter
Hmm.
against this evil clan that wants them dead. It's just has this kind of interesting juxtaposition of being kind of cartoony but not, but also being dark, and that whole dichotomy of not knowing how to take it on its surface is something that I like in my media.
Yeah, again, it goes one turtle who is very much broken in many ways.
Hmm.
Otherwise, but it is about
He's we could say he's haunted by his fellow
family.
brothers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, loss, grief, redemption, all these things, as well as revenge, or at least perceived revenge, from his point of view. And you you cheer him on the whole time, and none of
Hmm.
this, there are I like the way that they did this. It's very approachable, even if you haven't touched a turtle comic book in years. This is not something that
Which
you
was my case. Yeah.
right, and same for me. You
Hmm.
don't need there is no homework, unlike some
Hmm.
properties nowadays. You don't need to worry about the homework part. You can just
Hmm.
roll right in and then pick up the book, and then you understand what's going on. It's not a
Hmm.
mystery. Very straightforward, and I like that. I like that.
Hmm.
There's flashbacks throughout the entire thing that kind of go back and kind of set the relationship up, which kind of puts it even more in focus of he's hurting. He's
Mm.
hurting very much, and the memories they serve as a stark reminder of the world as it is today, or as in his world anyway,
Mhm.
how broken it is. And it just kind of goes to show the depth of his. It makes him more human. A strange thing to say for a Ninja Turtle, or a mutant turtle,
Mhm.
but it's nonetheless you feel for the character. I know I definitely did. I
Yeah.
don't know about you, but
Oh yeah,
it's
definitely.
very easy to get sucked into the emotional side of it.
Yeah, it's that archetypal typical story of yeah, the lone warrior, the lone last samurai, the lone warrior um seeking revenge. It's the one of those stories that's been told again and again, but like you said, it's told in a unique way with its own spin, with its own baggage from the history of the
Mhm.
comic book. And yeah, and the action is just as fresh as the action in the original comic books. The uh, Eastman Eastman does do the layouts on this. Just to go back, Eastman and Laird, plus Tom Mars, who's I guess the long running writer on the regular comic book. Because they still put out a regular comic book on
Right.
IDW's publishes it, of Mutant Ninja Turtles. So Tom Mars plus Kevin Eastman and Laird do the writing chores on this, and Kevin Eastman does the layouts. And layouts, as opposed, just to get nerd out a little bit on terminology, layouts means it's more of a fast, loose kind of sketch, sort of like you know. Kind of a sketch as far as what's going to be on the panel,
Okay.
and then they have two inkers. So the inkers pull a little bit more work in as far as putting in the detail, fleshing out the page. But yeah, it's Laird, or not Laird, but Eastman. But there is some black and white pages that kind of gives some of the history of it, and that's very much true to Eastman's style of art. So I'm wondering if maybe he was more hands on that part of it. But yeah, again, Eastman does do the layout, so he does do the pencils for it, kind of the rough sketch of what's going to be on the page, and then the artists go in and finish it out. But it's with the love and care of the co-creators there, that kind of fleshes it out.
Not
Yeah, that's sort of
not
yeah.
very good, but yeah, the and I'll try to find, and shame on me for not having a digital version, but buy once, cry once, right? And of course, I didn't buy it because I borrowed it. But nevertheless, going into what you're saying about the artwork, it is stunning. It has darker tones that match the story's mood. The
Yeah.
cityscapes are detailed, immaculate detail. I would even go so far to
Hmm.
say,
Yeah,
including the
those
action sequences
inkers,
too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, the inkers really kind of stay true to the original style as well. I was gonna say, but yeah, they do give a lot of detail in there.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, the use of shadows and muted colors
Hmm.
adds to the atmosphere and the world building, and it feels cold. It does feel cold from that artwork, but at the
Hmm.
same time, it still lifts you up to a little bit as well.
Hmm.
When you do go through the action sequences, or you have how bad it is into the fighting scene, the there's no way they could make this into a movie and do it justice. Not in today's modern sensibilities, in my opinion. You'd have to have
But
one
the
hell of a serious director, and I just don't think I think that's beyond our ability to do nowadays, and hopefully they won't. But
um, there's always a possibility, but they are making it into a video game, and
it
are
it would
yeah,
absolutely work in a video game,
um,
100%. This
yeah,
is probably you could not have a more perfectly teed up
hmm, yeah,
property that is ready for a good video game.
yeah.
Hopefully it's good because
Well, look at their thumbnail. The image that I grabbed is some of the initial
oh,
art from
okay.
the video game. So, and also I threw in some kind of scan lines, like it was videotape from the 80s
Right.
to just kind of give it a retro vibe to it, and
Right.
kind of played with the color a little bit. But you can find the
Chef's
original,
kiss.
some of the original uh, artwork, kind of teaser artwork for the video game. But yeah, it sounds like it's being made by people that love the property and love the Last Ronin. So
Right.
yeah, 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 anything can happen, and a year or two or three or four, knowing the development of video games, it could be another decade before it comes out. But
Sure.
we might be biting our tongues then. But yeah, hope springs eternal, and yeah, hopefully in the future we'll be playing this as a video game as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. And I don't mean like I mean like we're gonna have to wait a good 5 or 10 years before we even think about approaching, this that I would personally, as a fan, would want to see a movie come out per se. That's my personal opinion, not based on anything other than just like the market's already flooded with IP that is a
Mhm.
rehash of member berries, and they
Yeah.
they hit that member berries button over and over and over again, and it's Barbie is one, Marvel, all these things, Star Wars, all these things are kind of like too worn out, or
Right.
approaching that if not already there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and they just rebranded Mutant Ninja Turtles as a kids property with the new movie,
right.
and with all the, if you go into a Walmart or a Target, you're going to see that huge display of Mutant Ninja Turtle toys and action play sets and all of that. They're really pushing it. Also, Nickelodeon actually owns the title Mutant Ninja Turtles, so
They do.
anything you look at, even the Last Ronin graphic novel that you have there, has that print of Nickelodeon on there. So they might not be all for a Last Ronin movie anyway. So
Yeah, you're right
since
about that. Well, and a word about that too. There has been several remakes of the cartoon, primarily geared for kids. It does seem to be a property that every 5, 10 years or whatever they do, when they do reintroduce it as a cartoon or whatever, has a fairly good reception. That is unheard of, I would say, in modern day circles, where certain toys of certain properties do not sell, as we have covered tangentially, through different YouTube channels that go in, and you see just stacks of Star Wars characters nobody gives a crap about,
hmm
or you see a lightsaber that didn't get funded, or
hmm
things. And to be fair, there's other things that made it just fine past the goal line, but
right.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles seems to be a property where it is how to say it. It is Nickelodeon or whoever makes the cartoons. They seem to do a very good job of understanding what that means. And
Yeah.
and when they do recreate it or reinvent it or reintroduce it to a new generation, they seem to have very good grasp of what makes the turtles good, and what doesn't work. Of
Right.
course,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's all I would say about that. And I think we're,
hmm
we're this is 100%. If you haven't caught a drift by now or caught what we were saying, strong recommend from
Yep.
us both. This is something that I've had on the docket for quite some time,
hmm
that we finally got around. I was like, hey Tom, can we
Yeah.
please do this one? And he's like, yeah, no, twist my arm. Yeah, not really, but
No, yeah, yeah. Yeah, with the Mutant Ninja Turtles, just to add what you were saying, is it's multi generational thing. It's
yes, it
kind of
is.
kind of surprising. Yeah, it's kind of odd to say, but we're getting a bit long in our teeth, and there's a version of Mutant Ninja Turtles that I love. There's a version of Mutant Ninja Turtles that you love,
Yep.
and there's it. And there's a couple of guys' channels that I watch that focuses on toys, and they keep me up to date on what's coming out as far as Mutant Ninja Turtle toys, and NECA, along with other companies, toy companies. They're they're hitting all of the sweet spots. They came out with a version of Mutant Ninja Turtle action figure line, that replicate the OG comic book action figures. They have a line of the movie versions of the Ninja Turtles that look just like how they looked in the movies. 1, 2, and 3. They just came out with them in their samurai warrior outfits from the third movie,
Hmm.
and then they're also putting out um, replicas of the action figures from the 90s that
Hmm.
you remember, all those toys of Bebop and
Yeah,
Rocksteady.
that's
Um,
that's gonna get me. It's so funny too because me and the kiddos went to a kind of an arcade pizza joint here
mhm,
in where we live, and one of the arcade games that they had was a classic TMNT. I remember playing that game on Sega, on Nintendo, on all that. It was very basic platformer, essentially,
mhm,
but I have very fond memories of buying those action figures. So I am a
mhm,
sucker, hook, line, and sinker for that.
mhm.
And we'll definitely have some in the post show after because we're doing this live now. But I'll
Yep.
make sure I
Mhm,
update that with those mentions too, as
mhm.
we go forward. But
Yep.
yeah, this all the way down to like I remember playing as a kid. I remember which one are you? You know, you pick playground kind of thing, and like which weapon did you want to like which one and of course, you go off of like what the cool weapon was, like, well,
Mhm.
you want to be ninja chucks or I'm sorry, nunchucks.
Nunchucks. Yeah.
Good grief.
The
Or
size.
size
Yeah.
or the katana, of course, or the
Uh-huh.
staff.
Yeah.
Donatello and
No one really
Michelangelo
wanted
and
to be the staff, did they? No one
not
wanted to really have the stick.
not really, not really. But you kind of
Mhm.
get the odd man out. But it was always fun. It was always fun to imagine and all that.
Mhm.
And I was gonna say, going from this to this, out now. It's sold everywhere. If you can always get the digital version. Not as exciting as a physical copy if you're like us. And Thomas has slowly turned the crank on me becoming more of a physical media guy, for sure.
Uh-huh.
But
Yep.
I was gonna say piggyback this into oh yeah, the quick plug here before we go on. Um, Please go ahead and follow Thomas on X, Twitter, whatever the hell it's called
Mhm.
nowadays. He
X.
studio yeah, yeah, X gonna give it to you, not that X.
Yeah. Nope.
But yeah, Twitter, whatever. But Tom is out there and he
Yep. I'm out there
faithfully.
Xing. I'm Xing out there, putting out my X's.
But you can see his steadfastness. I am also I'm available on my own instance, my own website. And then I was gonna say, oh yeah, and of course, we haven't showed this website in quite some time, leagueofcomicgeeks.com, if you want to create your own poll list or know when. This is typically a resource that we would use, just like we like to use Just Watch for video and TV shows and whatnot to see where you can see it stream at. This is the same thing, but for comic books.
Hmm.
Also tells
Yeah,
you,
and yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
like
you
the
could.
IMDb of comic books, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And then you can go in comic books new this week, and they'll list all the comic books that are coming out
Yep.
new that week.
Yep.
The cool thing is if they list them in how many people are pulling those.
Mm.
So from the most interested pulled comic book down to the lowliest one, so you kind of get an idea of what where people's minds are at as far as what they're excited about. And yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, if we've kind of interested you into comic books, go to your local comic book shop.
Even better.
They're
Even better.
more than willing to help you out. Just tell them kind of what you're into. That I know Kapow comic books that I go to. They're very friendly, and they'll work with you. They'll kind of throw out titles. They're very knowledgeable. They'll throw out titles that they think you might be interested in, and no, they don't pressure you, but there's no pressure cells here. But But yeah, they kind of want to know, just as a fan, they want to know what you're interested in, but also try to get you into some comic books that you would be interested in. Obviously, it's beneficial to them if they get you hooked on a particular title, but yeah, they just want to spread the love of comic books.
Absolutely, yeah. And while we bridge that into, I was going to say, we're not really going to do a conclusion per se on it, but it is still currently running, rolling. We
Yeah,
just
it
haven't covered the first
actually,
5 episodes or 5 issues, excuse me, of it.
yeah. There's a second series going on. It's not um doesn't have Laird in it. I know, and I don't know if Eastman's involved in it or not. I think he may be in as far as plotting, but the totally different artists are working on it. So yeah, if you just want, this does complete the story.
Right.
There's sort of a tag at the end of the comic book to kind of, as far as maybe a next generation kind of thing
Hmm.
going on. But yeah, if you want a complete story, you can read The Last Ronin and be happy. If you read it and want more, that like Mike said, there's a second series of The Last Ronin going on right now.
Yeah.
That I don't think they've finished yet.
And
I've read the first 3 or 4 issues of
okay.
it.
Uh,
It's decent. It's not as
okay.
good as
Is this
this.
one?
You could
Okay.
tell that it doesn't really have the Laird Eastman overview on it,
Right.
but yeah, it's decent in its own right. But yeah, if you just are dying for more turtles, it doesn't it doesn't crap the bed, as they say.
Yeah, and I really want to make this point. If anything, if you don't take away anything aside from, well, that's cool for you guys. You guys have some kind of history with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Well, maybe your mom out there, maybe you're a dad out there, and you have no history. This maybe you're a young parent, or you're a single person on your own. Um, I just want to say I want to emphasize this a lot. My brother-in-law, my Justin, who loaned me this book, he is by no means a comic book fiend or fan per se. Anyway, there's a lot of an American comics that he just can't stand. But he's more of I mean, he likes a few titles like Batman. He likes the bigger ones that are out there. But if he can get into this, and he enjoyed it. That just goes his forte is manga. He is my foremost, just like Tom is my foremost expert on horror. Um, Justin is my foremost expert on manga. So if you have a friend like that, who they're not quite into comic books per se, I guarantee you if they pick this up and they read this, they will get hooked by its own right. And that is the quality of something that is substantial, that is going to stand the test of time, going forward, whether no matter what your tastes are. But it's written in a way very easily accessible to somebody who has no history with any of this stuff. Um, for that. So, just one more quality property out there that we highlight and we'd
Hmm.
recommend very much. And before we get going too far afield, I wanted to give a shout out to Kevin Eastman's website and then Peter's website. Although Peter's website looks like it's a little bit more out of date
Yep.
per se. But you know what? That's kind of the thing about websites nowadays, is like it is.
Yeah. Yeah, the Kevin Eastman one. The cool thing on that one is you could actually buy stuff. Like if you click on his NECA Toys section, he signs the action figures, and yeah, if you go to shop and then NECA,
Oh,
but
right there
yeah,
in front of my face. Yep.
yeah. uh,
Yep.
but
NECA.
yeah, NECA Toys. If you click on that, you'll see sort of what we're talking about as far as the original OG artwork of Ninja Turtles up there at the top, and then
Oh man.
yeah, for signed action figures, those are reasonably priced
No, these are
figures.
steals
Hmm.
for this. Like there are
Hmm.
collector's items that can easily surpass hundreds of dollars, if
Yeah,
not into the low thousands for sure.
yeah.
This is the nice thing about this, when you can find this. Obviously, you're not going to go out and buy a whole thing of them, but ones or twos or things like Quite a bit more pricey than like a Funko Pop whatever thing that doesn't
Hmm.
exist anymore. But even more so, this is just great. This kind of goes all the way back to, gosh, you have the
Secret of the
second.
Ooze.
Yep, I remember that wasn't as big as
Hmm.
the first one, but it was still
Yeah, you
good in
had
its own right.
you had Vanilla Ice. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, Casey John, and of course you have Krang, and all that from the cartoon. Not necessarily here per se, but it's adjacent
Yeah,
to it.
here, yeah, those are probably some of the lesser characters that are on sale, but not the actual turtles. I hear when he puts up the turtles ones that are signed, those go like hotcakes.
I have no
Within
doubt.
seconds those sell out. So
Yeah,
yeah, so you could probably grab that, but yeah, you could go ahead and go through there if you're a Ninja Turtles fan and want some creator owned signed stuff. Yeah, just kind of go through there and see what you might want to get.
absolutely. And then also to highlight.
And if you do it, tag me on my if you buy something, take a picture of it and tag me on my X.
Absolutely, on Twitter. Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
Please do that. And if you're adventurous, you want to look for me on Mastodon. Good luck. Nobody's going to be onto that, but that's okay. That's to my liking. But
Mhm.
in any case, Peter Lards also has a website. This was a very hopefully this is his website. So I will stand corrected if a fan out there says no, it's not. It's just some fan, but I think it is. And he still has content out there. There's still, boy, this is going back a ways. But there, go check out his website too. Give him some love. Even better, find his email. Find either one of these guys' email, and send them a letter, or tag them on Twitter or wherever they're at on social media. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. But God, this is taking me back. Blogspot, Google's thing. But in any case, I think we're coming up to the caboose here, and I'm going to pull us
Yep.
back into the chit chat here. The chit chat here
Hmm.
while I work on the outro. Um,
But
but
yeah, yeah. Fun fact. I have a fun fact for the Mutant Ninja Turtles. In England, they couldn't use ninja. I guess it was kind of bad. They didn't want the kids getting into ninjas, so they had to rename uh, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to Teenage Mutant Action Turtles. So if you were in the UK back in the 80s and 90s, that's what they were called. If you're there in the UK and are watching us, let us know. Tell us how you enjoyed the Teenage Mutant Action Hero or Mutant Ninja Action Turtles.
yeah, and absolutely. And actually, you know what? I'm going to pull back to one of our most recent ones, the Bubba Duke. Um, we had a commenter from Australia comment, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to highlight that real quick before we go. Um, because they seem to be a Jennifer Kent fan, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yep.
so shout out to Lauren Southern. Lauren Southern is radical 3419. Thank you for commenting. uh,
Yes.
we'd love to hear from somebody. If you're out there, you're from another land, from the land down under, or UK, or New Zealand, or Europe. We would love to have you on as a special guest.
Or if you're a space alien, I hear the YouTube is a buzz with all the alien uh information that's been coming out lately. So yeah, if you're a space alien, give us a comment as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we are teed up for our outro. Again, great property to get into. You will not be disappointed. The Last Ronin, by Kevin Eastman and Peter
Hmm.
Laird.
Yep,
And
put out by ADW Publishing.
yep, 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 absolutely. And I think we're good on that. Did you want to plug anything else or say anything else? Like look forward to, or to message out to the fans out there?
No, we're getting into the tail end of the summer. I know it's
Yes,
been
we are.
crazy hot, and
It
spending
has
more
been.
time in the air conditioning than outside in the heat. So if you guys have been watching anything and want to recommend us check it out, go ahead and give us a comment. Let us know what the new hotness in your or your life is, and maybe we'll check it out in the future episode.
Absolutely. I've been Mike.
And then I'm Thomas, and we're heroes in a half shell.
Yes, we are. It's time for that special bonus now. Here we go.
Now scam back into the sewer. Pizza. Cowabunga dude. This has been a DA First The Last The Nerdom production.